Lumine, our abyssal twin, is the sustainer of heavenly principles, and the heavenly principles is our twin.
That's it. That's it. Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn!
World of Teyvat is in an endless time loop. I know, this sounds crazy, and this is just a theory at the end of the day, but hear me out. I was inspired by this by rewatching Attack on Titan. Now, I don't want to spoil the show, so if you haven't watched it or you plan to, click off the video because I am going to be talking about it. But one thing that's been really bothering me about the 4.2 Archon quest is our conversation with N, one of the Hexen Circle's witches, where she talks about how what we're seeing is history of the future. That doesn't even make any sense.
The prophecy. Yes, what has been prophesized will be fulfilled. You may view such things as the history of the future.
But if you think about Teyvat in a time loop, which isn't a new theory on its own, it makes more sense. This has been teased in multiple scenarios as well. Like Nahida hinting at this after we relived that same day over and over again in the Sumeru Archon quest, and Venti when he first met us.
Everything in this world runs in a loop. This cycle is called the samsara. You, me, and everyone else are all stuck inside the one-day samsara. As for the truth, that's on you to find out. If you were told the truth instead of discovering it yourselves, it would literally blow your minds. I don't know how you'd be after that.
Ah, Traveler, we meet again. What? You don't remember me? Well, allow me to join you on your quest once again.
I've discovered something far more important and far more terrifying. The stars, the sky, it's all a gigantic hoax. A lie. What was the Jester thinking? He must have had some inkling of what we might discover on this mission. Would it really have been so difficult to give me a little forewarning?
I have already traveled through this world once. Once you reach the end of your journey as I did, you will see for yourself the true nature of this world. We have always had enough time.
And you might be thinking, well, how is that even possible? Because Lumine is literally in the same cutscene as the Heavenly Principles. How could that even be possible? Well, what if what you're seeing here isn't the beginning of the game, but the end? And the real beginning of the game is fishing Paimon out of the sea. Hear me out. The third Descenders remains are actually us. This whole time. All we know for certain is Lumine lived out her journey, is the Abyssal Princess now, and that we wake up 500 years later and do our journey. We end up finding our sibling, but she insists that we finish our journey, go to the end. The opening cutscene is us trying to literally leave Teyvat. Now, we obviously look like we're in Celestia right now. And why are the twins even in Celestia? Why would they even be there if they're just visiting this world? Are they just trying to say hi to the Sustainer or hi to Celestia before they leave? Like, pay their respects? Like, it doesn't really make that much sense the more you think about it. And the fact that our sibling doesn't want to leave with us when we find them right before Inazuma, like, they could have literally just left with us, but no, they're in the Abyss and they insist we go on this journey. And everything about this journey plays out in a specific order, and you cannot go off this beaten path until it's time. Paimon makes damn sure that you don't go in areas you're not supposed to, and you meet characters in a specific order. I think we've been living this time loop many times over, and the only ones that seem to know that we're in a time loop, a select few people in the Abyss, are outside of the laws of Teyvat and the Fatui. Now let's pretend this is true for a second. So this Lumine would genuinely be trying to leave with her sibling, she'd have great intentions, and this Lumine, the Sustainer, would be preventing you from leaving. Why would this even happen? Well, this is where I want to reference a few things that made me think of Genshin. First, Attack on Titan. Now, if you don't know the story of Attack on Titan, it starts with a character named Eren Yeager who goes through some really traumatic experiences where his mother's eaten by a titan, and basically humanity's on the brink of extinction because these man-eating titans are breaching. And he decides, and he vows to kill them all and save humanity. Long story short, he gains the power of titans. Towards the end of the series, he's the main antagonist because a future version of himself manipulated everything that happened in his life to make sure that he'd gain the power that he did so that he could actually eradicate humanity with the power of the Titans and the Titans. So the very person he sought to be is the exact opposite of the person he ended up being, starting as the main protagonist to kill all Titans and ending as a Titan to kill all of humanity outside of a select few. It's a very interesting contrast, but the journey leading up to it makes sense. The Flash has interesting story arcs like this as well, where he's his own main villain, a future version of himself trying to alter the course of his fate to make sure certain events happen. That is sort of what I believe to be happening here, with Lumine going on her journey, and then at the end of the day, when this journey is all said and done, it always ends the same, with her corrupted and ending up being the sustainer of heavenly principles and preventing us from leaving, guaranteeing that the time loop will continue, and that the past Lumine really has no idea of what's going on. They just think they're being abrupted, and that this cycle will continue over and over again. Now, I'm not suggesting that she's the heavenly principles in its entirety, but just the sustainer of heavenly principles. Now, this would also explain to you why we haven't seen the sustainer in 500 years. Because the sustainer during our journey right now isn't the sustainer yet. She's still Lumine in the abyss. And that some way, and along her journey, somehow, some way, before the end of the game reaches its end, she becomes corrupted and starts the cycle all over again. And in this process, she would be able to harvest the gnosis from perhaps her own body or her own mortal form and rise to godhood. We've seen that, gods can split themselves into two. So this wouldn't be crazy. Maybe she is the third descendant and she's harvesting from her own body, collecting the elements for herself, the same way that ether can also resonate with all the elements without a vision. And we know that Lumine has a great distaste towards Dane because he failed to protect Conria, so she took Conria's downfall hard. That's why this is so crazy. It's really mind-blowing because you have a protagonist that is so obsessed with revenge or avenging something or someone they lost that they literally become exactly what they hated all along. And not only that, but like I'll reference Attack on Titan again, future Eren Yeager was the one that caused the trauma for young Eren all along. And it's so mind-blowing because you feel bad for young Eren, but it's old Eren that's causing this to ensure him that he has that fuel, that hatred in his heart to guarantee that he'll set along this path already predetermined for him by his future self. It's a time loop. It could be happening with Lumine, and that she needs to destroy Conria for young Lumine to have that loss and traumatic experience to set her on this path to ultimately rise to Celestia, be corrupted somehow with the Abyss, and her downfall like we see in the Battle Pass trailer. And why she's so adamant that we finish our journey. Now, it might seem strange that Lumine would even want to continue this cycle. Like, what does she gain from this? Well, I don't think the original Lumine has anything to gain or even wants this. I think over the course of this journey, something happens. The same way with Eren Yeager, he became just so far lost in himself. He lost his way so much that he became the very thing he despised and sought to destroy. I think that's the whole point. Lumine is a victim of her own self in this time loop. She can't stop herself. She's her own enemy. That is why Dane says in the trailer, we have to save her.
Your journey has reached its end, but one final doorway remains. Step forth if you have understood the meaning of your journey. Defeat me, command me to step aside. Show me that you are worthier than I to rescue her. Then, the threads of all fate will be yours to reweave.
So how would this look in theory? Let's play it out. So this is the end of the game. We're defeated. Ether gets defeated. Maybe who knows what happens after he gets imprisoned here. Lumine gets sent on her journey. 500 years later, the time loop resets. Boop. Happens. Paimon's conveniently right there to make sure that we're always doing everything we need to do in order. Paimon could be doing this, and Paimon could quite literally be a device without even knowing it, specifically there to make sure that this happens in order. Go along our journey, resonate with all the elements, everything plays out as it should. We get to the end of the game, and it always ends the same. We lose, she wins, it restarts. Lumine, somewhere along the way, becomes corrupted, erosion, who knows, and then restarts this cycle. But why is this cycle a little different though? Well, because of the Fatui. See, the Fatui know something's wrong. The false sky, the giant hoax and the lie. They're trying to break the cycle. And external forces breaching this simulation bubble universe of Teyvat also know that something's wrong. So what is happening here is the Fatui might actually found a way, when the cycle resets, they might be able to keep their memories. See, Irminsul can do many things. Irminsul can actually change history, like we saw Sumeru forgot Rukkhadevata altogether. And this actually affects archons and gods as well. So majority of the history that you know of Teyvat could all be implemented into people's memories without actually happening. We don't really know the extent of how this could play out, but the Fatui know what's going on. So they could probably be gaining knowledge. Each time there's a new time loop, they gain more and more intel, how to execute and break this loop. So they're literally just trying to break out of this endless time loop by collecting the Gnosis and doing what they're going to do at the end of the game. And that this playthrough that we're doing right now is going to be the end game, the last one, where we actually break out of this ever-ending time loop, and this mysterious abyssal sibling that we have ends up being the main antagonist all along.
May I ask you, have you in all your mighty knowledge ever heard the rumor that the skies of Teyvat are fake?
Huh?
That's the secret hidden by Irminsul concerning the truth of this world.
Kind of like The Flash, where his main villain ends up being himself, causing all of his headaches. I really believe that this isn't that crazy when you think about it. Obviously this is a theory, but it would explain why the Fatui seem to know so much and are so advanced and so powerful. They probably found a way to keep their memories each time it resets, and they gain more and more knowledge, become more powerful, and like someone like the Dore gains more knowledge through experiments, and they learn each time it resets, and that eventually they had a plan to break out of it. This would also make more sense why Scaramouche was so stunned at learning this truth back in 1.1. We didn't really understand exactly what this meant at the time. We all assumed that Celestia was controlling everything, but I feel like that would be kind of somewhat common for the Fatui. That's why they're doing what they're doing. But to learn this secret, that you're in a giant time loop that never ends, would be sort of startling. Like, wow, I wish I was warned about that. That's a lot to take in. Everything you know, everything, history itself, life, is just a big lie. That would actually be hard to swallow for anyone, and most people wouldn't even believe it. And we all thought it was weird that the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles hasn't done anything. People are in open rebellion, the Hydro Archon's gone. A lot of things have happened that should have warranted her to come and rectify the situation, but she hasn't. That's probably because she's probably not even there yet. The Sustainer of Heavenly Principles is just still Lumine in the Abyss, being corrupted and going on this path. Now, what exactly happens that makes Lumine go from this to this, that we don't know, because there's a lot of details we still don't know. But I think she'd be the victim of her own trauma. She'd be causing her own trauma and not even realize it, and she's stuck in this time loop, so she's suffering, and we gotta save her. Again, this is just a theory. It has been hinted at in the game, and it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. It would be a huge plot twist for sure. And what is with our sibling? Why haven't they reached out to us? It's a little weird to me that they're just letting us run around going on our journey. You literally could explain to us what's going on. We could leave. But no, you insist that we go on this journey. I think she's guaranteeing that this time loop continues by seeing it through to the end. That is why everything has to happen the way it does. We have to meet characters in a specific order. Events have to happen in a certain way. Certain characters seem to know us already, and other characters, like these witches, seem to already know what's going on. External forces also seem to try to be breaching this and trying to put a stop to it. If this was true, it would make sense why she doesn't want to interact with us and wants us to finish the journey. She's already corrupted enough to the point where she's trying to guarantee that the time loop continues. She needs events to play out so that you finish your journey, it ends where it began, and the time loop resets. But again, just a theory. And, you know, it's fun to talk about these stuff with this game because this game's lore goes so deep that it's fun to speculate on these things. I personally love the idea of her being her own villain and not even knowing it at the beginning of the game. I love the idea that the beginning of the game could be the end of the game, but only this time it'll be different. It's very interesting to talk about. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, though. I know this is a bit of an outlandish theory, and it's not like necessarily a new one, but rewatching that show really made me think of this. And with what N said about the future is the past, makes me think that we are in a time loop. And we hear so much about this false sky, this weird third descender now, and how our sibling is part of Irminsul, but we're not, and we're clearly siblings. Like, there's so much inconsistencies and weird stuff that it's like, what's happening here? And that's the whole point. That's what makes this game so fun, so interesting, this whole broad world of Teyvat and its story, all these characters that have been through so much trauma. It all leads to something, and it's going to be something big. But like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. You know, I appreciate all your support in watching this far. And as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.